Today I will give you a little bit of e-commerce, AI and Google Shopping. But also talk about the journey on why and how we became to be here today. And also a little bit about the future. But let's start with you. Let's start with when you sit in front of a desktop or by your cell phone, you feel that you have a need for buying something. It could be anything. It could be a new jacket, it could be a new bicycle, it could be something else. But you most likely end up here. You open your laptop or your cell phone, you plug up your browser, whatever you have, and then you type in, for example, underställ, base layer, like this. And this is what you end up with. You get the search results. And it most likely looks like this. But you don't have time right now to go into all the details on which clothes to be buying or not. So you close down the phone. And then you head out later that day, you do the same search and you get some other search results. You see there are different pictures, right? And then lately you're thinking, I'm gonna add some more information. I'm gonna put in which fabric I want and maybe that it's men's I want as well. And this depends on what time of the day, which device you're using and so many other things. But the main thing is the bid of these advertisers. That is what sets that up. So if you are an e-commercer today, how the bleep are you going to understand how to manage this? Because there's so many variables at stake here. Well, see it as this way. This search results page is exactly what we had out on the streets, on the shopping streets. You see that when you enter a shopping street, you see all the stores on the right, you see all the stores on the left. But in the online world, these stores are constantly changing and becoming new stores, depending on your need as a consumer. And it's not about rents anymore on the shopping streets. It's about bid levels of the ad. And that's where the power comes from. So let's take this example, the bids. Look at all these bids here. You see all the different players have placed different SEK, Swedish crowns bids per ad. They don't pay that yet. They only pay once you've clicked that ad, all right? So it's per click. So for example, you end up bidding 1.35 for this ad. And then you get thousands of clicks on that. How many do you think will convert or not convert of this 1,000 clicks? 2%? That's a good guess. This is a not uncommon result. 990 of those 1,000 don't get any sales at all. But maybe 10 of those 1,000 clicks, 1% in this case, gets sales. So you spend 1,000 clicks at 135, that's 1,350 crowns in investment. And then you get back sales of 6,750 crowns. That's a return on investment, ROI, or as it's called in advertising, return on ad spend, ROAS, of 5 times, 500%. So, the game here is to reduce the number of non-converting clicks, but also increasing the number of converting clicks. And when to bid high and when to bid low, right? That's the game. And there's so many variables at stake here. Which keywords, search words are you searching for? At what time of the day? At what device? What are the prices of your goods versus the competitors? So many variables at stake. And this is what our service, BidBrain, is doing. BidBrain is an AI-based SaaS solution that we launched a little bit over a year ago. It does granular bidding based on all these parameters that I've been talking about and more, trying to improve the ROAS, the return on investment, for the e-commercer, but also increasing the sales at the same ROAS. And it's as transparent as possible because many AI solutions tend to be some sort of a black box. You put something in, you get something out. Don't ask me what happens in there. But we try to make this service as easy to use as possible, but also as transparent in terms of what works and what doesn't work. So, why AI then? Well, if you take this, for example, that you have 1,000 products in your store, and you have 5 different sizes and maybe 5 different colors, and then you search at different points of time during the day with different devices, and then you have the competitor prices always changing, that alone is around 950 million different bid strategies to use. I want to see that person that raises his or her hand and says, hey, let me do that manually. This is why we need to let the AI do the heavy lifting. So the service itself is very easy interface. You use, as an e-commercer, your existing Google Ads account to sign up. You provide your wanted return on investment, ROAS, and then you provide your product feed, your list of products. And then the service gets going. So it's a pretty easy sign up. And you get a 30 days free trial, of course. If you're not happy, keep on doing it another way. So, we launched this service a little bit over a year ago. It's going slowly, but at the right direction. We are currently at 19 customers or 19 stores. One example is Craft Underwear, which are now expanding to 2 more stores this quarter due to a strong results of increasing in sales at a very good ROAS. So that's just an example of this. Let me also give you a little bit more of data into this, because data is the foundation of AI. And this is a typical example that we see when we take on a customer. At the left-hand side, here, you see that sales generated comes from maybe it's 85% that has a description of that product up to 4 or 5 category levels. And category levels is, for example, clothes, men, shirts, wool, and you see the different categories of a product. So 85% of the sales usually come from a product that has 4 or 5 different category levels, descriptions. But only 10% come from those that doesn't have any description or category depth at all. But if you look at the sales here, you see that say that's the sales. If you look at the product list that we receive from customers, you see that more or less half of all the products doesn't have any category depth at all. And this is just a clear way of improving the performance in Google Shopping. You see that it's almost 40%, 50% that has these depth of category levels. Another example is, if you take a look at the whole product assortment, list of products, you see that 80% of all the products doesn't have or get any clicks on Google. They're dead, more or less. So the question is, how can you activate these? Because if you don't have any clicks, you don't have any data to bid on. And if you don't have any data, you're blind. So the way of activating the tail of a product assortment is usually the key to improving sales. That is something we're working with clustering of other parameters than just the product. The 20% that gets the clicks, there's so many ways to improve there. For example, if you take a look at of those 20%, only 5% units is above the wanted ROAS target, the return on investment target, and 15% are below. So there's stuff to do there as well. But that's enough about BidBrain. How did we get there? Well, the journey here hasn't been easy. It started back in 2003, where two guys in the outskirts of Stockholm had an idea of making online services. So they scraped different sites like Schibsted's and Tradera and created alla annonser. Then they scraped recipe sites, creating one of the largest food communities in the world. But as we progressed, the idea of doing performance-based marketing really grew. And performance-based marketing is about only doing marketing when you get something in return, not just showing an ad. It's about getting something in return, so that it's seen as an investment. So after the pandemic hit, we decided to change our strategy. And at that point of time, we were valued at around 350 million SEK as a company. But when we looked at all the companies we had in our portfolio, we saw that this is worth at least double that, or maybe 3 times that. So we decided first to do a divestment of the Finnish loan broker called Rahalaitos. And we sold that to Nordic Capital about a year ago, getting 400 million just for that sale of business. Then we sold Vinklubben, the wine club, to another listed company called Viva Wine Group, getting another 120 million in. Then we sold the remaining part, affiliate, and then we kept the one with the most growth potential globally, which is the ad tech business. We paid off all our debts, did a huge dividend, and that's what you see in the key performance indicators of our stock. And we've kept some money to grow the ad tech business. So we've gone from a scattered portfolio of different businesses to being a very focused business doing ad tech. So at that point of time, we only had around 20 million in cash. Then we did all these sales, we paid off our debts. We ended up with a cash pool of 430. We did a dividend of 316, a little transaction costs. So now at the end of Q3, we have 84 million still in the bank to push this startup, more or less funded startup that we have. So the last quarter, we had revenues mostly from Shopello with 3.2 million, a negative EBITDA of the burn rate. We are building this service right now. And our cash is currently at 84. The revenues has been going down lately, and that is due to the shift from the Shopello service, which has an old business model, to this new one of BidBrain, which is a SaaS service. So you can't really compare 1 crown here versus 1 crown here because they are different in margin. So the margin at Shopello is only like 15 or 20% margin, while the margin as a SaaS company, if you know SaaS company, is close to 100% margin. So when we do this shift, bear this in mind. So let's move over to the future. What lies ahead here? If you look out the window, not these windows, these are mirrors, but out there in the world, you see a pretty grim scenario being painted against the sky. And the consumer confidence is at record low levels. It's even lower than it was during the pandemic outbreak. So people are trying to keep their money to themselves, not spending that much. And this, of course, affects our customers, the e-commercers. So it's tougher to get meetings with them. I must admit that. However, at these times, when the pressure is on, it means that consumers are buying less. It means that the e-commercers are dropping in revenue. And if you have dropped in revenue, you're getting a lower gross margin to cover your fixed costs. Therefore, your EBITDA is going down. You are under pressure. But you remember that word called performance-based marketing. Performance-based marketing is about marketing not being a fixed cost that needs to be covered by the revenue you generate, for example, in a brand campaign. It's about every marketing spend is seen as a cost of goods sold. It's very related to the sales it's generating. So for every crown you put in marketing, you're gonna get it back as a return. So this is what BidBrain is doing, either increasing the revenue but keeping the same ROAS, or which increases the margin, or you keep the revenues but you reduce the cost of getting that revenues, which increases the gross margin as well. And that is performance-based marketing. One more thing before I let you up on the stage again, before I leave you. Do you remember this slide? We talked about the cash position. We have one more thing. We have an earnout on the Rahalitos case. We've been driving Rahalitos business for over a year now to get more cash. It's a tilläggsköpeskilling, it's an earnout. And right now, we're at the end of this earnout. And the preliminary forecast was around receiving another 1.75 million euros for this. But October has been doing really well, so our estimates now, right now, is that we will receive another 2.5 to 3.5 million euros to put to our cash pool to use for developing BidBrain moving forward. So, when we're looking forward, this is a tough market, but BidBrain is really the right service to use. We're gonna focus on building the development and also getting ready for scale of this, and also getting the final cash injection from the Rahalitos earnout. So we see ourselves as a financed, no debt startup business right now, listed at Nasdaq. So, and remember, it all starts with a need, and if you go to Google, we'll be there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Fredrik. So a question here, what does your competition look like?
The competition, there are some similar players out there. We usually find them in the UK, or there are one other player in Sweden that is also doing a similar thing like this. But usually it's another way of working that is the other competition. It's like you're doing this manually, having people internally, or you're using a digital agency doing the work for them. But you could use Google's own services, but then you have to rely on the people selling you the ads are also the people buying the ads for you. And that is often not really a trusty relationship, some think.
So Fredrik, if somebody here would be interested in investing in you, which of course is your hope here, what can they expect, let's say, within a year?
They can expect that we are putting the money and the cash that we have in developing a own AI solution, state of the art, that is focusing on really delivering sales and conversions for e-commercers. We are totally obsessed with using the data and the technology for that. And having a service like that is something that will see the future in a much brighter light than other services not delivering these results. So they will see a tech company focusing on what matters for e-commercers.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your presentation here today. Best of luck. Thank you.